Karaka Million meeting with $2 million races. The man hosting On Track at Ellerslie has joined us in the studio in the Punters Lounge live jacket, or what it should be. Brendan Popwell, good morning. What are you looking forward to today? I mean, obviously it's Ellerslie, but what part?
Gee, morning, Jason. Look, I think the 3-year-old race, I think the Karaka Classic is the final race on the program, is set up to be one of the races of the year, isn't it? I mean, with the combination of Madison County, who's coming in with those 2 Group 1s, the Australian influence of Longleaf, and then you've got the Pike Runner and Surely Sacred. You've got so many other horses that are progressing into the race as well. It's set up to be the race of the night, and the intrigue around the 2-year-old race. I mean, how hot it's going to be up front. Is it going to be good enough? Is there going to be enough pressure up front to be able to allow those horses like Proper Bill and also AETLA to finish over the top? So much intrigue around the day. And is Boys Get Paid going to absolutely nail it as well today with their $150,000 they've got to spend as well?
I've got a massive pot, so if you're just joining us for the first time, Boys Get Paid is a Facebook group that has over 12,000 followers, and last year they put together a punters club with $50,000 in the kitty. They've outdone themselves this year with over 100,000 more. 165,000 I think is their total, so there'll be some massive moves, and Stephen Hunt will be under the pump with his team fending off the Boys Get Paid army.
Well, they did the job last year, 12 months ago, the likes of Melody, Bell, Julius in the first 2 races, and all those multis finishing on Avantage in the last, so hopefully it's a little bit of a revenge day today.
Hopefully not. Hopefully we get you again. All right, let's go. Let's go with the program. It's a dead 4, but it will be evidently a good 3, having spoken to Paul Wilcox, who was with Jason Fulford. So you can see good 3 in that graphic, but officially dead 4, and it should improve. So no scratchings just as yet. Just be aware of that. 12:30 is official scratching time. Mongolian Marshal, $2.50. Brendan. Actually, I'll go to Stephen first. We discussed this, didn't we? Stephen, the money for Mongolian Marshal?
Such a key moment, even though it's the first on a 6-race card, because it's a light race card where there's only 6 races compared to an 8 or 10 race card. There's a lot of repeat multis that we find on 2 or 3 key runners, and one of them is Mongolian Marshal. It was like Melody Bell last year, 12 months ago, and then you had Swords of Osman in race 2, and then maybe potentially finishing on a Whiskey Neat or a Proper Bill in the 2-year-old race. So it is a key moment, Mongolian Marshal. $2.80 we posted on Wednesday. Got as short as $2.70 yesterday afternoon, but the money has just continued for Mongolian Marshal. James Mack on board, so it profiles to be a nice betting individual. Mongolian Marshal at $2.50. Currently holds 50% of turnover, so it could even drop from that $2.50 line and close to $2 come race close. 5 to Midnight with 60 on the back. Again, we're talking about these top-weighted horses. The punters want to keep fully away from 5 to Midnight, so he will be running for us. In the Good Fight, $5.50 off a peak of $6 could start second favourite. Outside the top 3, there's a little bit of specking around Bully Boy, who did the job a couple of weeks ago at HQ. Currently a losing result, $11.
Let's have a look at the Form Pro speed map, and it appears as though horses, you've got Bully Boy and Red Cayenne, and look, Brendan, if they ride Red Cayenne like Michael McNabb rode Red Cayenne at Trentham last week, I'd expect that he'll be there with Bully Boy, and they'll be having a bit of fun up front.
Yeah, I think that's the case, and that's what they've unlocked with the Red Cayenne, haven't they? Is that's how they'll like to ride the horse, and they'll look to do something similar for sure. I mean, look, Bully Boy was very good in that role when winning around Ellerslie last time to the races. I find this race Mongolian Marshal, and I sort of got the sense from Andrew Forsman as well that they weren't that happy with how he performed in the City of Auckland Cup. I mean, he really did go up to win this race, didn't he? He was in the right spot. He was in the chance to challenge, and he's been beaten by Prince Jabil. Now, what you can say off the back of this is that Prince Jabil is in run with 59 kegs and run a big race in the Wellington Cup following. So, even though he has been beaten by a 40 or 50 to 1 shot, he really should have won here, though.
Well, he had the run of the race, didn't he? The race shape suited him. He was in the right spot. He was presented at the right time.
Yeah.
You just thought, oh, well, he puts them away. To be honest, I was watching a horse dropping up to last there, but you would have thought that he should have put them away there.
Then he runs third. I mean, he doesn't actually run second. He doesn't keep going with Prince Jabil. He actually ends up running into third position with Peso coming back. Look, 5 to Midnight's very good underneath as well. Again, he has to carry the weight. He's carried the weight 2 starts ago in a Waikato Cup where he was challenging him behind, obviously, Mongolian Marshal and also Grain. This is the runner that I really do like in the race, and it is the Good Fight, and I feel as though the Good Fight, as we see here, as we pick it up, in a field of 16 runners, this horse is last. Now, he is not going to be 16 to 18 lengths off them today, with this being a size field of just 9. He picks up really strongly underneath runners. He follows through Starry Beale and flashes home into second position. He has got massive cups potential, hasn't he, this horse? He's in the right part of the weights. I really do like him at the price here this afternoon at $5.50. I'm happy to be shopping on him, the Good Fight, and I've made him my best bet of the day as well, the Good Fight this afternoon. I really do like his chances. That was his second in the Dunstan Feeds final. Other chances around the race? Look, maybe Sacred Day. Look, he's a horse who has been unlucky, hasn't he? He just hasn't had the right favours. He comes in nicely at the weights. I thought he's potentially a danger at around that $8 quote. How do you sort of see this?
Well, one thing about it is I really like those two horses that you've got on top as well, but they have a lot to actually prove. They've raced in a lot lesser company grade-wise, but look, in terms of performance, you get the feeling that they will be competitive, and we've seen in these Cups races horses down on the bottom that have been, 15, 20 points out of the handicap, or the New Zealand Thoroughbred rating handicap, still be competitive and cause minor upsets and decent upsets at that. The Good Fight sectionally on that day was better than 5 to midnight. Now, it's tricky to compare the different races, obviously 2400 compared to 2200 of the City of Auckland Cup and also that Dunstan Stayers final, but stacked up really well on the clock, and the last 200 was very impressive. So I'm with you. I'm happy to go the Good Fight, but look, Mongolian Marshal, I'm just wary that if he does position a few pairs closer to the speed, then that might be enough, dropping back and trip as well. But that's the Collinson 4X Karaka Cup, race number 2 on the card, and this is the Mongolian Khan Trophy, a 3-year-old set weight and penalties. Sword of Osman, $2.30. You've got Burgundy Bell there at 6, so Team Tiako have first and second favourites in the race, even though favouritism is clearly with the one, Steve. What are your numbers telling you?
Interesting race. There's 3 key horses here in early betting around Sword of Osman, $2.30. Now that was his opening line, but clearly he has been the best back runner, just money purely down to single bets. Sword of Osman holds around about 2 times more money than Burgundy Bell, who also has its support. Burgundy Bell, we never like to underestimate the unbeaten gallopers, and we've got a couple of them running through the program today, and one of them is Burgundy Bell, 2 from 2 at $6 off a peak of $7. A little bit of specking around She's a Thief. Be interesting to hear your thoughts, lads, around She's a Thief. She was well supported in the hallmark against the older horses on Boxing Day. Do you play the Forgive card because it was on a rain-affected track that day? I think she started around 3-1 favourite, She's a Thief. So a lot of punters at this stage willing to forgive. At the moment, she's our biggest liability in that middle market. $9 off a higher $10, She's a Thief. But best back runner will be Swords of Osman, and there'll be plenty of multis running through him. At the moment, there's around about 800 around Sword of Osman, and that's a lot going through the first favourite in Mongolian Marshal.
If you're backing Sword of Osman, I think you want to see him forward in the speed map, and you don't want to see a race run at any pressure, with any pressure. And this suggests, even though there isn't sort of an outright horse that go forward, there are plenty of riders, I'm sure, Brendan, that will be thinking, I want to be forward rather than be negative from the gates. And so one, Kotuku Street from the inside, Sword of Osman himself, She's a Thief and King Louis, they all can go.
They all can go, yeah, they can. Look, do you think Sword of Osman will find the rail, or do you think one Kotuku Street can be good enough to hold the rail, and does that mean that if Boston has to sit outside leader, maybe like he did last start of the race?
I think he'd be content to sit outside of the lead as long as a horse like King Louis doesn't fire up over race and want to be there with him and push him too much. But if he found that outside the leader position like he did last start, as you mentioned, then I see no reason why he won't do what he did last start, which was this.
That's right, and I think She's a Thief potentially plays a part in that as well, because we've seen her go forward in her previous starts. I mean, she was good enough to run 4th in the Karaka Million last year, and she's run 2nd in the Matamata Breeders by a pimple. I mean, this was a track work gallop, wasn't it? It was worth a bit of money, and it was around Ellerslie. So, I mean, it was very good. He just sat outside leader and he put them away. He's improved off this. Look, he carries similar weight. He's beaten a horse, that's progressive as well at the same time, despite being beaten yesterday in the Chosen One. So, look, that's just going to clean the horse up nicely for the race. But, yeah, there are those little concerns about just what type of pressure he is going to cop in the race, and if he can find that position outside leader without too much effort. This is an interesting runner in the race, Mason Roxanne, and it's interesting for me as well, because post-race, when I spoke to James McDonald, this day was about maybe looking towards to this evening as well, and this was one of the runners that he targeted that might be running on the meeting. Now, he did say to me that this horse is good enough to potentially be taken to Sydney. So look, he knows what it feels like, what a good horse feels underneath to him as well, and what sort of rating they can get up to in Australia. So you've got to take that on board. Where does she sort of end up in the run? She's been able to take 2 very good close spots previously. She might be a horse that would be just looking to tuck in behind those pressure runners. And if she can, look, I feel as though she can be a place chance at 245. I'm happy to be specking away at that sort of place money anyway.
You get the feeling she's just going to map beautifully, don't you? Just in behind the horses that could potentially go forward. We're not quite sure what decisions will be made, but there's enough there to suggest that she might just be tucked in behind by James McDonald. And if she's good enough and when she's produced, she could cause an upset, or minor upset, really.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But look, in the end, I'm with sort of Osman. I think he's the class horse of the race. I mean, he's won at Group 1, Group 2 and Group 3 level, and he's won his Group 1 around here at Ellerslie. So he's got rock solid form at Ellerslie, and I'm happy to be with him. Just with that, being mindful of what could happen up front. So I'm having a little saver bet on Mason Roxanne, probably more weighted towards the place.
I found it a really hard race because I just couldn't get a handle on where everything would settle in the running. I have sort of Osman on top. I like Cyber Attack and the fact that he's fresh up over 1,200 metres. He worked okay at Ellerslie, so he'll get a good run along with Maison Roxanne. Look, I've left out Burgundy Bell and I've left out She's a Thief, and the market's saying I'm wrong. So I could be, and that's my concern about this race. I don't find it a very easy race.
I think it's that kind of race, though, Jace. If you want to go away from sort of Osman, probably have to take 4 or 5 individuals because it's quite an open race. So there'll be a lot of diversion in terms of punters. They'll go lone, sort of Osman, or there'll have to be a spread needed.
Certainly, from a pick 6 perspective, you'd be looking at multiple tickets where on one you'd be anchoring sort of Osman, and another one you'll try and go narrow somewhere else and maybe take a spread. And you might take 5 and still miss the winner. It's that sort of race to me. Anyway, race number 3, it's the Preferment at Bright Hill Farm Concord Handicap. It's over 1,200 metres. Princess Kerridoo is at 6,550. Stratocaster Spring Heat is at $6. Favouritism is down the bottom of the page there with a Drossen. And I noticed, Stephen Hunt, that a Drossen is trimmed.
$4.20 when betting commenced on Wednesday, Jason. Now under that $4 band of $3.90 a Drossen. Saying that, they're electing to punt 4 or 5 runners. It's a red hot Concord this year. Drossen heads that market, 3.9. I think it's found its mark currently. We're not going to be shortening anytime soon around a Drossen. Stratocaster, who maps very well in this race at $5.50, and that second line, well found. Princess Kerridoo, a bit of a move around here against the runner-up, or it was the runner-up in the railway, 6.50 into 6. She is that third line of betting with Spring Heat at $6, who was super impressive. And the punters got the bickies when it was first up at Matamata a few weeks ago. So punters reinvesting there. Now, Ever Loyal's an interesting runner. We haven't seen this individual since 12 months ago at this particular meeting. I would have expected to see a little bit more money for Ever Loyal, particularly from a Pike stable. But at the moment, I cannot write a ticket on the 4-year-old by Sebring. $10 an opening, now up to $12. Just keep an eye on that price throughout the afternoon. I'm going to be a bit controversial here in saying the best bet runner, even though it doesn't hold anywhere near the most amount of money in single bets, is Pretty to See, purely on market moves on a very solid market. Pretty to See opened at $21, got as short as 19 yesterday, 18 this morning, now coming to $17. Now, it did win on Boxing Day on a rain-affected track, but over in Australia it did perform on better surfaces, so they're not thinking that win on Boxing Day was a fluke around Pretty to See. That is your market mover, 21 into 17.
Yeah, it was a soft win, wasn't it? The question is, how will this race transpire map-wise? Will a Drossen have the ability to go forward, and if he does go forward, will he get a soft enough lead? You've got Ever Loyal and Joy Anna in this Form Pro speed map that could go forward. Not sure about Riki Tiki Tavi. I get the feeling they'll probably be a bit more neutral from the barriers. I do expect a Drossen to go forward, and Amistar as well does have some speed, another Stephen Marsh runner. Your thoughts, BP?
Yeah, well, maybe Winona Costin is a jockey that does like to get him up and going with Riki Tiki Tavi, but yeah, I'm sort of with you as well. Look, Ard Rosson is a horse, I think, a little bit like a couple of races, had this horse drawn better than where he is drawn, he'd be a lot tighter in this market because, I mean, just how good was this horse when winning around Te Araha? We know that the horse was disappointing for the team in Australia and hence why he's back here in NZ, but Yeah, he could push forward. He could find a position. I find this race tricky because you've got obviously the railway form as well, and you've got the railway Quinella.
Yeah. But
let's go to Ardrossan first of all. Look, he's travelled up a peach here on the point of the bend, hasn't he, for Jay Waddell, and then he's had to find, but then he has responded to that as well as Ardrossan. I know the horse has improved out of sight post this run. Stephen Marsh is very happy with his progression since. So that's key to his rivals. If he's going in the right way, he's a massive player in the race. The barrier draw, though, it puts me off a touch with him. But if he can overcome it and find himself in a decent spot.
His last 100 was his best work, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, wasn't it? I mean, it was very good. I mean, this is the race that interests me a touch with these two at the top of the book, and that being Santa Monica and Princess Kidadu, because they were able to get them into the right position in the railway, Jason. They were in the right position in the weights. Today, this is a different ball game, isn't it, for these two runners?
it was a great ride by Trudy Thornton, and look, just got in the sweet spot how the race was run and presented, and she was excellent. And she's been racing consistently all season, Santa Monica, and in many respects it was a surprise to the market, but when you looked through it you could find reasons, and you gave yourself an uppercut for not having something on her. Because she was there in quality sprints against horses that were performing all season long, but she has it tough with 60. I really struggle. I know that Stephen, has there been much money for her at all?
Not at all, Jason. Opened at $12 on Wednesday, Santa Monica. She's out to $14. I wouldn't be surprised if she closed around that $20 mark.
Right. Have you had any money for this little Spring Heat?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, BP, there was a lot of money reinvested on Spring Heat after she did the job at Mudda Mudda. They got us there first up on a couple of trials that you'd have to say were very ordinary on the eye. She put away this field, and she had to if she was competitive in a Concord today, because it wasn't an overly strong field in rating. So, but she did the job, but again, she doesn't map ideally in a race that probably just lacks a little bit of tempo in early stages. So if she wins, it will be a devastating win on the eye. She'll have to come from a long way back and finish over the top of them. But I think she's well found at $6. If anything, she might be a late drifter later on this evening. Yeah,
they're going to have to ride the horse neutral, and they're going to have to hope that the speed is hot up front for her to really come over the top and do maybe what she did in the Bone Crusher when she won at that venue.
I just thought she was a massive under.
This is a run from Stratocaster. Of course, a good ride from Opie, that he was able to, in a small field, he was able to position the horse forward and running. I think this can be the horse who can maybe overturn the runs of the railway horses in front of him, the likes of Santa Monica and also Princess Kidadu. He comes in better under the weights, doesn't he? He's a horse who's got a barrier draw, he's got the right jock aboard. I'm really starting to lean towards Stratocaster as a chance in the race. I've marked him as my second pick. I'm actually going to go for a bit of a value runner in the race. I am going to go for Volks Lightning. In the race, runner number 3. Now, she is a horse who's rated around $16 or $17. Now, we go over Santa Monica's form, and of course, you find that Swainess run where she was terrific from back in the field. Well, of course, Volks Lightning did win that race. She does have form round Ellerslie, where she was Group 1 placed in the railway when finishing third behind Volpe Veloce. And sectionally, she was very good in the Telegraph Late when she finished into 8th position. She's a massive over in the race at $16 or $17. I'm happy to have something on her. I was happy to nibble away at Ever Loyal as well. I thought the trial was a run from at the trials where he was hard held at the line, a bit of a mystery runner in the race, and he is drifting around $10 or $12. But I was happy to try and shop around for some value in the race.
Well, both Ever Loyal and also Ardrossan, they were there at Ellerslie on Monday. Managed to see them both. They didn't really ask Ardrossan for too much, but he looked great. He looked super. Ever Loyal looked well also, and lined up with Surely Sacred rather, to go through their morning work, and I know Tony Pike was happy enough with it. But yeah, Ardrossan on top for me from Stratocaster, Princess Kidadu, and Riki Tiki Tavi presents as good value. But because it's a handicap, we're away from the set weight and penalties, we're back to a true handicap now. It makes it a very competitive race, and that's, I'm sure, what the market has been telling Stephen Hunt, which is he's been telling us. Race number 4, it's the Karaka Million 2-year-old, where Whiskey Neat is $2.70, Probabeel $3.90. We've talked a lot about this market, particularly since Wednesday, and the barrier draw, which has helped shape the fate of the 2 best back runners in the anti-post market, and also, no doubt, Stephen Hunt, the final field market.
As I've mentioned the last few weeks, we've had feature races on the back of a futures market. The market in the final field for the first 2 or 3 days is very, very solid. And there's no difference here around Whiskey Neat. After the barrier draws, set at that top line of betting, $2.70. Now that is his opening line. Leithinus doing the riding and well supported in front of Probabeel, who opened at $3.70, just gone out slightly to $3.90. At the moment, between these two favourites, Whiskey Neat holds 2 times more money than Proper Bill, and that includes a couple of $2,000 bets on Whiskey Neat at $2.70. Now, make what you want out of here, but Aotea Lad holds 3 times more money than Proper Bill early doors at $6 off a peak of $7 when betting commenced on Wednesday. Sits in that third line of betting. A little bit of specking around Louis Luck, 14s. Got as short as $12 yesterday, just back out to its opening line of 14. Your Deal's been hovering between 12 and 14, currently at $13. Appellant's been well supported, specced in that middle market at $21. Neptune's Spear, comes from Queensland, has been well supported. I think that money will dry up. We always expected money for this individual, so I think it's almost found its market around about that $23 price. And a little bit of specking around Tappies 1 and Challa. I think there's a big syndicate around Challa, so no surprise there at longer odds at $61. But best bet runner is Whiskey Neat at that top line in front of the third line horse and Aotea Lad with J Mac doing the riding.
Sounds like a fun race to be trading. It sounds like you've got a good spread of money across the runners there, which is what you'd expect. You've got owners that have horses, they've invested in them last year, they've got them in the race this year, and they want to be punting up on them. This is the map, and again, this is variable. This is very changeable. You've got Beauty Diva and Challa as horses that will go forward with Whiskey Neat, but Louis Luck, the stable suggests it's one of the fastest horses they have early, and so I can't help but feel that they will be pressing forward with Louis Luck. How about Tappies 1? You've got Your Deal. They might try and squeeze a little bit out of it early to pinch a spot or two in a 1 off or 2 off position, 3 wide with cover sort of thing. How are you sort of seeing it, Brendan?
Yeah, look, I think Beauty Diva, I think, is the first obvious horse who can be a bullet out of the gate and find a position up front. Challa is the horse who's at a big price for Tiago, and Louis Luck. I think they're 2 horses that play a part. Well, what about Neptune's Spear? Well, I mean, what do they look to do from barrier number 10 with that horse?
That seems a go-forward proposition for sure.
Yeah,
off what we've seen in Australia. You'd think that they'll be pressing the button and being aggressive.
Gave him the towel quite easy down the straight as a hot pot favourite. It was around about $1.70.
Did have a bit of weight. Did have a bit of weight.
Okay.
I think the back end of 1200 will be the question for it from what we've seen, but did have to carry a little bit of weight. I know, again, they were confident following its work on Monday, and it worked really well. Another horse that looked like it had travelled well, and we know that Liam Birchley, having won this race twice, he's got the formula.
So let's talk about the start of the race then, because, I mean, as it was just said about those horses that can come out, you'd imagine that Innes is very keen to be able to jump and get across in front of Flaunting first of all. I mean, if there's a torrent of pressure from those middles and wide gates, I mean, does he just keep hunting up? I mean, he doesn't probably want to hand up to 100 to 1 shot, does he? I mean, in Beauty Diva, if they keep pressing. I mean, but then what does that do to his chances if he keeps hunting and keeps wanting to keep flushing those horses out?
Well, Tony Pike and Leith Innes are all over this like a rash. Again, on Monday, he worked with indecision, and indecision led him out. So they were content to sit off indecision with a view to potentially in this race, this is pre-barrier draw, maybe being forced to take a sit. So they'll be positive, but if others want to go crazy, then Leith will make a decision, either I'm on the best horse and I'm going to hold you out, or I know that I've got a horse that can come back to me, settle behind, and then be produced for a run and still have plenty to offer. Indecision is, by all accounts, a decent enough worker, and she's in great form, and he was right with her. So, you know, he's going to be primed and ready, and they've got the flexibility and tactics, I think, Team Pike Innes. So it's going to be some race.
It will be. And then, of course, if all of that unfolds, then it brings in the horses that have got tricky barrier draws, your Aotea Lads, your Proper Bills, and even your Deal, I think, as well, to be able to try and finish over the top in the race. I mean, that's the whole dynamic of this race. I mean, if Whiskey Neat finds that spot and then whoever comes around and sits outside and doesn't eyeball him, well, then it's his race, isn't it? Because it'll be just too hard for those horses back in the field to try and chase him down. That won't happen, though, because it's $1 million race and there'll be horses pressing forward and pretty keen to find that position. So, look, I have changed my mind a number of times about this race, and I've run it through my head a number of times before going to sleep last night. But in the end, I have gone with Aotea Lad. I just thought he might be a horse who will really like that position of pressure up front and maybe just appear in front of Proper Beal and also maybe Your Deal. Those 2 horses, they'll be looking to maybe try and track that horse into the race late as well. But I went with Aotea Lad. His closing sectional behind Whiskey Neat was terrific here. He really did take some ground off Whiskey Neat, even though he was good up front. So I've gone with the 1 over the 2 in Whiskey Neat, and then Proper Beal run at number 11, who will be flying home late. I think if Proper Beal had drawn anywhere but barriers 1 or 14, I would have been on the runner to win the race. My knockout in the race is Flaunting, number 14. Now, this is a runner at 35 and 8. I'm happy to have something on. I'm happy to find out if it can run a race purely because it's drawn barrier number 1. Now, because if there is all that hot pressure up front, this horse can take a trailing position. And look, was Goodwin winning? A deserved place in the race. And I'm just happy to find out at the price on Flaunting.
Worst result in all-in markets, Flaunting. Almost a 6-figure loss around this individual. They were punting this horse as soon as we opened the market in early part of January at 40 to 50 to 1. Then it closed around about its final field market at $31 Flaunting, but definitely won't be cheering that one home. Sorry, BP.
And that's what's going to be the great thing. There are going to be all these connections of these runners in the grandstands with their futures tickets. As we've mentioned, have invested in these horses a year ago, and today is potentially their payday, this $1 million race. I don't have anything between both Whiskey Neat and Probabeel ability-wise and sort of how I've assessed it. And for that reason, one's a slight under in Whiskey Neat and one's a slight over in Probabeel. So I've gone her over him, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was the other way around. I like your deal and what your deal managed to do last start, and I've included Aotea Lad as well. So Team Tiako figuring strongly as the weight of runners suggests, but Tony Pike and his chance, Whiskey Neat is going to be right there. All the best with whoever you choose to back in the Karaka Million 2-year-old, and particularly to the owners and the trainers and the jockeys. Hope for safe racing and all the best to you. Race number 5. This is how things stack up for the Westbury Classic. Volpe Veloce is the $2.50 favourite 7. We've talked about this, and this is the best back runner. In the last half an hour, have you been able to turn the tap off, or does it keep flowing?
Not really, Jace. We've accepted a couple more 4-figure bets around Volpe Veloce.
Good work.
It's just incredible money. Honestly, I didn't expect this. This was what I'd call an unpredicted market mover, Volpe Veloce. I thought the money would be...
Really? You didn't predict this? You really thought...
Not to the degree, BP. Yeah. I knew it'd be one of the better back runners on the card. But to hold this amount of money, now we're talking now, it's up to around about close to 50k turned over in this race, which heads any other race on the 6-race program. Whether that remains... I'm not too sure. I think those $2 million races will be the highest turnover races on the card later on this evening. But in terms of just one-way traffic, Volpe Veloce, just under 50k on this race invested, 47 of it is on Volpe Veloce. That's a number of 4-figure bets. The biggest single has been 3,000. We've accepted 2 times 3k bets on Volpe Veloce. So if you're just working on numbers, $2.50 is still value. From what I'm saying, that will close odds on if you're just working on the amount of money that's on her compared to the rest of the field. You got La Castell at $7, solid. That was its opening line. The big drift is living on a prayer $8.50 back at HQ, which she does like, and I'm sure she'll appreciate the 1400 v the 1200 of the Telegraph 7 days ago. But a notable drifter, Indecision, 9, got out to 10, just brought back into 9 the last couple of hours this morning. Sleeping Beauty, rock solid. In fact, that is the second best back runner, even though it's still a winning result at $12. And outside that, there's really not too much to talk of. It's all around the Volpe Veloce and the Group 2 feature. Michael Coleman doing the riding.
Okay, you speak of Sleeping Beauty, one of the horses that will go forward along with Indecision. Didn't see too much pace outside of those 2 horses. Lucy and Rio the other. And then what happens after a couple of 100 metres? Will they sit up here? Yeah,
and I think also key with Volpe Veloce with her barrier draw. Look, we have seen the horse been just a little bit tardy away from the barriers as well. So, I mean, they're going to have to make sure that she's on her game to be able to be first released from that position and make most of her very good barrier draw. I think if she does, I think she's clearly the horse to beat in the race. I mean, Stephen's telling us enough there with the amount of money that's going on the horse from $2.90 to $2.50, and if you're going off that, you probably want to be trying to snaffle up 2.5 as well. I'm with her. Her sectional was unbelievable in the railway with how she's come home with 33.53. I do like Lucas Steele. I think she's an up-and-comer. Look, it's a race that they've had in mind for her for quite some time. She's having just her 10th start to the races. This is a massive step up to what she's tackled recently, of course. But look, she's done a nice job, and I've been impressed with how Mark Blackie's handled this daughter of Delgar. So I've got her into second. Living on a Prayer, I thought just as out of that Telegraph run, she was a horse that was making ground in that race. And then also Yearn, maybe Yearn as a touch of overs in the market, sort of around $13 or $14. Did make some nice ground sectionally as well. And then you've got Basu, who sits in this race as a winner that's beaten Volpe Veloce over this distance, and it was right-handed. I spoke to Nigel yesterday. He did say that maybe it's back to right-handed would be the key to this runner after those 2 disappointing efforts left-handed. There are a couple of horses in there that you may sort of question over 1,400 metres, the likes of Indecision and Sleeping Beauty, but I think the way the race will be run,
there'll be enough of a sort of a slack section or two in the mid stages that I don't think it'll be a hard run 14. So if you like Indecision, Sleeping Beauty, then maybe they are worth a go. But I'm with Volpe Veloce, living on a prayer. On the quick backup, maybe there's a question mark. The money's saying I'm wrong again, but you've got Basu, Sleeping Beauty, Indecision. I don't think there's much over those either. So Volpe Veloce clearly on top, and then I've really got a clump of 4 other mares that I think will be competitive. Anyway, that's the Westbury Classic. Race number 6, it's the Karaka Million 3-year-old Classic with Madison County. Now, we spoke with Andrew Forsman out of his 4 runners with Murray Baker. He's nominated This Is the Best Chance. It's been very well backed. Surely Sacred's at $6, just a slight drifter, Stephen.
Sorry, which horse, Jason?
Is Surely Sacred a slight drifter? Was it $5.50?
Absolutely. Opened $5 when betting
$5.
commenced on Wednesday, now up to $6. There's a couple of reasons around that. They've punted a few at the back end of the middle market, but also the warm support on number 1, Madison County. Now, the key around Madison County in its last 2 Group 1 wins, the Levin Classic and also the 2,000 Guineas, come the morning of the race, it was clearly a winning result. Well, this time around, in the Karaka Million over the mile, he is a losing result at, say, what's the time? 11 o'clock, just after 11 on race day. So that to me suggests that 270 won't be holding up too much longer. In fact, it could even shorten in the next maybe hour or so around Madison County, because you go back to those 2 Group 1 wins, there was heavy traffic on the individual very late in the piece, maybe an hour or 2 leading into the race. So I'm expecting that again this time around Madison County at $2.70. There's been a number of 4-figure bets. He is the best back runner in the last, and the stable and punters will be hoping the Baker Forsman stable bookend the program with Mongolian Marshall and multis finishing on Madison County. Surely Sacred we've already touched on, 5 out to 6. Longleaf, the Australian Raider, opened at $10. There was a carrot dangling there for a while, got as short as $9 maybe a couple of hours into trading, now $8.50, second best back runner Longleaf. Miss Labas has been well supported, never underestimate the unbeaten galloper, and she's had 3 wins from 3 starts and has done it on the clock as well at Alperne in its previous start. $13, now short as $10. Just touching on Media Sensation, was dry all the way up to late yesterday evening, but been well supported in the last few hours. Media Sensation at 14, a little bit of speaking around praise to Fur at 31, currently a losing result. But all in all, best back runner is the fave, Madison County.
Can pull off a betting coup, John Barry, with Miss Labassa, and 3 from 3, hard to knock. This is how the speed map looks from a Form Pro perspective. The Karaka Million 3-year-old Classic, with the speed, it seems, coming from the wider draws, which often can generate even more speed as some of those drawn inside want to hold positions. So, yeah, hopefully it will be genuinely run.
Yeah, I wasn't sure actually, Jason. I thought Miss Labassa could potentially just find that spot up front, and yeah, you're right. I mean, those outside horses can be able to inject a little bit of tempo into the race, but gee, I think if Miss Labassa can find that top part in the race and be able to control it, I think she's. I mean, the overs is gone, 15s anyway, but
one thing I might change is Queen of Diamonds is marked to go forward there. Andrew Forsman suggested that maybe they'll be conservative with her early. And Longleaf, they've got going back now. I expect him to Longleaf to be ridden positively by James McDonald out of that gate. I'd be surprised if he's not looking to sit in the first few runners in the race.
Yeah, and look, we heard from Andrew as well around Madison County, and he's a horse that, look, they'll be wanting to try and use their draw as best as possible. He's a runner that doesn't always, he doesn't ping out of the gate, does Madison County, but gee, what a win from the horse last time to the races. But again, it was a Group 1, but this is a step up, isn't it? I mean, this is a race that has got a lot of different branches of form, isn't it? And obviously when you add that Australian angle into the race with Longleaf. I was impressed as well by Surely Sacred. And I've been impressed with what I've heard post the 1st of January win as well in the Auckland Guineas. He's a runner that's just pushed out a tad down to $6, but I was happy to take a risk on him. I think he's a runner that really does have a lot of upside to him. Over Madison County, I think you've got to have Longleaf somewhere in the mix. That Australian form, I mean, he runs anywhere near some of those races he's run well in. I mean, this must be a race that he can be competitive in. And then there's a host of runners you could throw into the mixy, Jason, and we've even mentioned the 1,000 Guineas winner. I mean, and Media Sensation. You've got Pin Me Down in here, you've got Imelda Mary. They've all won stakes races. Hypnos has been a Group 1 place getter recently. I do like Swords Drawn as a Derby prospect. I'll be looking for him to be running on. I mean, last year we saw the Oaks winner running third. We saw Dance flying home from the back of the field, you know. So it's just going to be that race again, isn't it? Where you're going to watch this and go, wow, I'll be following that horse in. I think Super G's a massive over in the race. It's sort of 40s and 5s, if it 8s if it can run a drum, and you know it's that type of race. But in the end, I'm going to go with Surely Sacred, the 4.
You just triggered there's happy flashbacks you can trigger in this sort of torturous ones.
Oh, that was massive, wasn't it?
Madison County I've got on top, but I think Longleaf's a good back. And so I'm going to make Longleaf an each-way bet in that race. But I find I had to have Madison County on top. Queen of Diamonds, I have a lot of respect for her, and also Surely Sacred. Was that turn of foot, the last 200 metres, it was an effortless turn of foot where he just came into that race on New Year's Day, and he put it away in just a few strides, so he's clearly very good. It's a very good race, the Karaka Million 3-year-old. Okay, Brendan, $100. And that's probably on the low end of the budget today for most people. $165,000. No, just $100 for you, Brendan. How would you spend it?
Okay, all right. We'll spend it this way. I'm going to go with the Good Fight as my best bet today. So that lines up in the first race at 5.5. Value bet, I'm going to make Volks Lightning my value bet at around $16. Right, we've got a few pages here to get through. So strategy-wise, I'm going to go $20 multi, the Good Fight into Sort of Osman. And then we'll use those two, and we'll take $10 multis into the Good Fight, into Sort of Osman, into Volks Lightning, and then we'll take out Volks Lightning, we'll add in Stratocaster, and then we'll take out Stratocaster and we'll add in Ever Loyal. So that's how I'm going to play those $50 multis. So that's $50 total there. And then I'm going to have a shot at the Karaka Million first 4. Now there's going to be a decent pot to be able to chase down here. And I was happy to run around 1, 2 and 11. They are the horses that I find the hardest to beat in the race. They've been 1 ATL Ad, the 2 Whiskey Neat and the 11 Improbable. So looking for the 1 and the 11 to be finishing hard, Whiskey Neat to be up front, and then I'm taking a spread in behind and hoping like heck that Flaunting can run third at $8, and then maybe Black Rock's Detox runs into 4th position, which will be runner number 9, and that first 4 could pay moonbeams.
Oh, how about that? We saw Aidan Rodley on the first call yesterday pull out a place 6. You pulled out the first 4 in the Karaka Million 2-year-old. We've got the bet types covered here on the Punters Lounge Live and our programming on TRV Trackside. I'm going to go more down the line, and Volpe Veloce is the best with Longleaf, the value bet. 10 over 20, the Good Fight, though. Nice. Loving your work on that. So, but again, a little bit more conservative, just a little bit of a place there to get something in the kitty, hopefully, if it finishes first 3. Volpe Veloce, 40 to win, and Longleaf, 10 to win, 20 to place. I think that adds up 10, yep. Adds up to 100, not 90 or 110. So that's $100 spent, and I've spent a lot. That's the suggested spends. Make sure you join Brendan Popwell, who will have Bevan Sweeney going through the form also. You'll have Caitlin Mallion on horseback, George Simon, Aidan Rodley. If I missed anyone, ABC, Alicia Collett. Stephen Hunt. Everyone's going to be. If you're not at Ellerslie, well, then you're at somewhere else. But
I don't have to work if you don't want me to.
You don't need any encouragement there, do you?
Make sure you join the team. It's going to be an outstanding afternoon of coverage.